Bond. James Bond. Hi, this is Robert Darby, and you're listening to Cracking the Code of Spy Movies. Stay tuned.
Today, we take apart the gadgets in two of Roger Moore's James Bond movies, The Man with the Golden Gun from 1974 and The Spy Who Loved Me, 1977. And we thank Robert Davi for his intro for us. If you have not yet listened to our interview with him, do so. He tells some great backstories and is fascinating. All right, let's get to the gadgets. The Man with the Golden Gun. All right, the Golden Gun, of course, was the best gadget. Made up of a pen for the barrel, a cigarette lighter for the chamber, a cigarette case for the handle, and a cufflink for the trigger.
Now, I really liked this gadget. I mean,
cool.
They named the movie after this gadget, right? Because it's the Man with the Golden Gun.
Yeah.
It's such a simple device, but so perfectly well disguised.
Yeah.
If you just saw those individual parts, you would absolutely not think anything of it, which to me is why it made it such a phenomenal gadget, because
it is. I always wondered, though, because I don't think there's any time in the movie where he really has to hide that he's going to shoot somebody, does he? Or
I don't know if he has to hide, but he uses some of the devices, pieces of it.
Yeah, I mean, I would think he would just keep it together and take it out and shoot somebody.
Well, but if you have to go through security somewhere or something, to some event or something, nobody would know it was there.
I guess. All right.
If you take a look at something like the Clint Eastwood movie, In the Line of Fire, there was the gun they had to smuggle in, and it was made out of wood.
Yeah.
Right here, you just have the individual pieces. There, nobody would think twice.
I like the concept. This Golden Gun. All right, for 1974, this was a fascinating little gadget and has a little more oomph than the AR-7 collapsible rifle in From Russia with Love. I mean, that was, again, a component kind of rifle. But real spies in the real world used ordinary objects that revealed guns, like belt buckles, pens, lighters, and more. Real stuff in real spies.
Is that a Felix lighter, Dan?
Huh?
Is that a Felix lighter?
Yeah, I know. He says that in For Your Eyes Only, I think.
Yeah.
All right. There was even a cigar pistol, a wrist pistol. Remember the Moonraker wrist pistol, of course. And I think the Wild Wild West, I think West had a wrist pistol, right?
Yeah, the thing you flicked your wrist, the little Derringer, yeah.
Yeah, a little Derringer. All right. Single-shot cigarette pistols. You remember the one in You Only Live Twice? This cigarette can save your life. Remember that? Shoots a little propelled bullet. There even was a glove gun that had a contact plunger at the end so that if you punched someone, the gun would fire. I mean, these were real
That's
things.
A punch.
Yeah. Boom.
You hit him with your wrist and you shoot him at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty cool. So all that stuff was real. So this component gun is pretty cool. And of course, Scaramanga was so good with his gun, he only needed one shot. So the gun held one bullet. That's
and how much did he get paid for that? $1 million.
All right, so that's a good gadget, and the main gadget of the movie, since, like you said, Tom, the movie is named after it. Then you got the Solex agitator.
No,
This gadget turns energy from the sun into power on Earth, and it collects all this energy in a solar energy power station. Well, in 1973, there was an oil crisis going on in the world, and so a device like this would be worth billions of dollars or pounds. We could use a Solex agitator today. Technology-wise, we're still nowhere near executing this concept. There was talk of building at one time solar collectors in orbit and then beaming the energy down to the Earth to store and distribute, kind of like they're talking about here. They had problems with the concept of getting the energy down to the Earth, though, and of course the storage part.
That could be a problem.
That part they haven't figured out yet.
To me, isn't this just a really elaborate solar panel using today's terms?
Well, they collected it.
the design for this was crazy. It was, I mean, yes, we're harnessing the sun for energy, which we've been doing since at least 1883. The first photovoltaic cell came out in 1954. Solar cars came out in 1955.
Man, we should have
communication. I'm sorry?
We should have solar cars now.
We should have solar cars now. Communication satellites in 62. Huh? There was a spacecraft that used solar in 67. And in 1974, commercial buildings started using solar. So I'm missing something here, because we even have solar farms that can generate electricity to be distributed to everybody on the grid. So I'm not sure what the deal is here.
Well, the concept has been around a long time, like you said. But I think in Scaramanga's case, it harnesses the power of the sun and stored it. And I think this is what scientists have talked about, again, for decades. Putting solar sails, like we said, and bringing it down to Earth. They have a problem with collecting it on Earth and storing it in a massive way, but bringing it down from Earth orbit down to the Earth is an issue. Now, they weren't dealing with that issue in this movie. They collected it right from Earth, right? Yeah. From the big rock.
Yeah, so the big thing was that they were able to store it?
Yeah, I think so. Storing it and then able to distribute it at will whenever they wanted. And I think that's the key here. But we really can't do that in any big way. Solar farms actually come the closest to it, like you were mentioning solar farms, because they do store energy in batteries, I think, though. And so that would be a lot different if you're trying to collect gazillions of units of energy from the sun in a Earth orbit down to Earth. But anyway, I don't know. I think maybe here the Solex agitator is really kind of a MacGuffin device. You know?
Oh, absolutely. Right? It's absolutely, because you don't really care about it.
Yeah, you don't really care about it. All right, so let's get to something more down to earth.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, well. All right, Scaramanga's flying car.
Oh, so we're going down to earth and we're going to talk about a flying car.
The flying car is a pretty neat gadget. One of our favorites, I think. I liked it. It's a small car, and a lot of people think it's a Ford Pinto with wings that could be attached to it. And then the instrument panel changes for airborne flight, kind of like the instrument panel changed in the Lotus Espirit and The Spy Who Loved Me when it became the submersible, which was pretty cool. Tom and I were at all of those locations in Sardinia, Italy, where they filmed the scenes with the Lotus, where it came out of the water, where it went into the water, where it was delivered, everything. The chase was very cool. Beautiful.
If you ever have a chance to go to Sardinia, just do it.
Fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. So we can give this one a flyer.
Oh, God.
And say, yeah, we could kind of believe it. It really did not work. Not very well. But was a very cool idea. Not as cool as the barrel roll over the canal, though. That was fantastic. That's got to be one of the best stunts ever in any movie. Yeah. Boom.
That was great.
Yeah.
Now, so I read a comment on Movie Clips that where somebody talked about this, and somebody named Rob said that it was an AMC Matador on the ground, but a Pinto in the air. If I go to carenthusiast.com, and they cover the cars for all of Bond movies, they give a different story.
Okay.
So they say that the car is a Matador coupe, an AMC Matador coupe, and it could only fly about 500 meters. So what they did was they replaced it with a meter-long remote control flying model.
Well, yeah.
And filmed it in the air.
Okay.
So I ended up finding that Matador answer that you had where they were saying it was a Pinto, but I don't believe that's right. I think the Matador one is correct. And this concept was based on something called the Aero car that came out in 1949. And also there was something called the Convair 116 or 118 from 1947. But in this movie, it was the Matador that was used to do the flying.
Well, I mean, they did use an AMC car. That was definitely the car used in the bridge corkscrew jump.
Yes.
That was an AMC car.
Well, when this thing leaves the garage, it's an AMC Matador.
Okay.
With the wings on it.
Now, supposedly the AMC car doing the corkscrew over the water was a Hornet X, AMC Hornet X. But there was a real flying Pinto that was developed by the AVE company that really never worked that well. It was criticized by the National Transportation Safety Board.
Wait. The NTSB had a problem with a Pinto? Forget that it can fly.
Yeah, that's the least of the Pinto's problems. It used to explode upon impact with the rear, remember? Boom, rear impact, bam. Yeah, it was a problem with Pinto. And it was not a comfortable car. I have ridden in a Pinto. Anyway, they had a problem with this car, and eventually the two owners, testing out a new and improved version, were killed trying to fly it on September 11th, 1973. Now, given that The Man with the Golden Gun came out in 1974 and was being filmed in 1973, you can see where the writers were aware of the flying Pinto and incorporated it into the movie, perhaps maybe before the tragic crash, but likely they kind of knew about the crash already because of the timing. So maybe the flying car in the movie was based on the flying car, the flying Pinto, but not a real Pinto, but a Matador coupe, which was produced also by AMC from 1971 to 1978. So the actual vehicle mock-up used in the movie supposedly sold in 2011 for a mere 7,480 pounds in London. I mean, that was pretty cheap for a Bond car.
Yeah, really.
I mean, even if it didn't really fly. I mean, that was a steal. So just don't try to fly it, after.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think that's enough on that. It was a cool gadget. All right.
Okay, so let's have some fun, Dan, and let's talk about the Funhouse.
Yeah.
I mean, the entire Funhouse itself was a gadget, and it was designed so that Scaramanga could practice killing his prey under difficult circumstances.
Yeah.
But he also would bring his prey there sometimes and take care of them, as we saw in the movie. So it was kind of fun that it was a fun house because of the mirrors and everything, but how it was not just a practice site. He used it in real practice.
Yeah, well, he brought in the guy, we see in the beginning when Knick Knack brings him into the Funhouse. And I thought it was cool because it does have a lot of elements to the Funhouse. I love the gangsters opening up and firing. There's a lot of cool stuff in the Funhouse, and everything is a gadget as Knick Knack's kind of controlling the entire set, including making the Golden Gun inaccessible at times to Scaramanga, and he's got to figure out how to get it. Remember, it's locked in that case and everything else. So that's kind of cool. But the whole thing is a gadget, and I think that's pretty much it for gadgets in The Man with the Golden Gun. I don't think there's
there weren't a lot of them in this movie.
No.
It was actually almost a little disappointing that there weren't more.
Yeah, but it was fun. All right, so let's move on then. Let's go to The Spy Who Loved Me, 1977, one of our favorite Roger Moore outings as Bond and one of our favorite Bond movies. I love The Spy Who Loved Me, and great casting in it as well. So, in the pre-title sequence for The Spy Who Loved Me, Bond's watch prints out a message, if you remember this.
Yeah, how can you forget it?
On a tape, telling him to report to HQ. This was a form of communications in the 1970s, especially in the stock market business, but the miniaturization of it to a watch in 1977 is kind of over the top. But remember, in the U.S., much of what consumers enjoyed in electronics came from the space agency, NASA, including the miniaturization of circuitry. So they had landed on the moon 8 years earlier. The gadget here printing this out kind of looked high-tech then, but doesn't look so high-tech now. It looks kind of silly, really.
Yeah, this thing was lame. I mean, to me, right? Electronic digital watches came out in 72 with the Hamilton Pulsar P1. Mm-hmm. Heck, even Hamilton had a calculator wristwatch in 1976, a year before this movie. Wow. And Seiko came out with an LCD watch in 1973. Yeah. I would think they could have, I don't know, you think they might have been able to get something to digitally display in 1977. Instead, this tape thing they used looked like it was the tape for what was then Dymo Industries' Dymo labeler thing.
Oh, yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, which launched in 1958. In fact, I think there's a piece of that kind of tape that we see in the Ipcris file. But
Yeah.
I was just surprised they didn't use a digital watch here.
Yeah.
In Moonraker in 1979, they did use a Seiko LCD.
Yeah.
So I was a little bummed that they used what looks like a Dymo label maker's tape
Yeah.
as the message device.
Yeah. And you got to store all that tape inside the watch somewhere.
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
pretty
And the ink.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
I
a
guess
little piece of
you need the ink.
there's a piece of tape that embosses the color on it.
It's got to emboss it too. So it was, I think, one of the silliest gadgets in any Bond movie. Really, I think
it could be. It was. I know you really hated that finger snapping thing in Diamonds Are Forever.
Yeah, right. I didn't like.
Is this as silly as that? I don't know.
This might be worse. This might be
because I kind of like the finger snapper. There was a utility.
Oh my god, yeah, that's so low tech. That's like we said before. It's like a gag store trick. Go buy one for $0.25 or something. Anyway.
Well, here it would have cost you more than $0.25.
Yeah. Right. All right. Now we got the ski pole gun though. That I think is pretty cool. As Bond is escaping in the pre-title sequence again, his pursuers are on skis pursuing him. When he left the beautiful woman in the lodge after he got his message that we just talked about. Bond is skiing, he turns around and aims his ski pole at one of the pursuers, and he fires, and he kills him.
Of course. He's moving backwards.
Yeah.
Aiming at a moving object with the ski pole gadget thing.
Yeah.
And of course he hits his mark.
Yeah. They've been missing him firing all this time with bullets.
Yes.
But... they don't practice enough, like we've always said.
Yeah.
The enemy, they're not good at that. So this turns out to be Soviet agent XXX's boyfriend, and this gadget fires a dart projectile. I always thought it was a bullet until we actually examined it, and it's a dart projectile, and you could see when it's in the guy's chest that it's really a dart. So we can go down that slippery slope by say that that's believable. You could do that.
What is it with you today with these lines? Oh my goodness.
Bummer.
Okay, so I got one for you.
Okay, yeah. What?
Okay. The submarine tracking system. Now that's a key gadget in this movie, and it allows Stromberg to identify the locations of submarines all over the world.
Yeah.
So this definitely seems like a relatively viable technology. It's a viable gadget for him.
Yeah.
Whether it can get all the submarines, who knows? But to be able to track stuff around the world by then, we had the technology to do that.
Yeah.
So to use one of your puns, we can run silent and deep with this one.
I like that. That was a great movie, by the way. Run silent, run deep. Okay.
But it's so it's
that's a believable gadget.
This one's a believable one. We can keep going then.
And again, it's the centerpiece of the movie, right?
Centerfold? No, that's Bond and On Her Majesty's.
Yeah, he's looking at the tracker. Oh boy, yeah.
Oh, that's what he was looking at.
Yeah, right, exactly. She was holding it in her hand.
Yeah, that's it.
Of course, the biggest gadget of them all is Atlantis, Stromberg's underwater headquarters.
Hey, Dan, that's a pretty all-encompassing gadget with a lot of internal gadgets.
It is. I'm glad you said that. Now, really, it's actually not really practical, but
you think?
But okay, a billionaire can probably build one. And I always wondered, though, now you see that nice long room where Bond and Stromberg are sitting at a long table. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
At
How
one
can you
point,
forget?
and again, he goes back later and he shoots him through the under the table pistol tube. Where the heck is that long room on Atlantis? When it rises out of the water and you see it, you go, where could that room be?
Well, the whole bottom of Atlantis, that could be just one long room like that.
It did not look like that, but all right. Maybe
I'm going to give it a modicum of possibility in that I think it could fit in the bottom of it.
Okay. All right. I had no ideas where it could possibly be. All right.
Now, another part of this that we did like was the elevator.
All right.
And where that went, that where he dropped his prey into the shark-infested waters.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool. Okay, fairly simple, right?
Yeah.
Fairly simple concept. You see a similar version of that in View to a Kill with the stairs for the blimp.
Yeah,
that when they kind of jettison out the guy who was the Mr. Solo, if you will, of that movie. Right. But we've seen bridges that open to dump other targets into shark, piranha, or python infested waters as well.
Yeah.
In movies like Moonraker,
Yep.
where Bond wrestles that python. Thunderball, we've got the pool at Palmyra, which has the sharks in it. And that's actually one of the more searched terms that from our website, Spy Movie Data database.
The golden
Spy
Grotto
Movie.
sharks. Yeah. Check out our database on our website, spymovienavigator.com.
Yeah,
Spy Movie
absolutely.
Database. Cool stuff.
Yeah, now in You Only Live Twice, we have that scene where Blofeld flips that switch to kill Helga for her failure to kill Bond. He does it by the switches by the pedal.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And it collapses that bridge she's walking on.
Yeah, and she gets thrown into the piranha-infested waters there, right? So that's good.
And I think Eon Productions has some kind of fixation on dropping people into shark-infested waters because we really see it in License to Kill when Felix Leiter gets partially fed to the sharks by Sanchez's goons.
Yeah, that's a great scene, and Tom and I were at that facility in Key West, Florida. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, in License to Kill, actually, he doesn't fall into the water. They're lowering him into the water by some type of winch or something. But it's the same concept. Sharks are going to eat a human body. So, there you go. How you get there is not that important.
Yeah, and to me, the doors open up and the sharks are in the water waiting for whatever's coming in.
Yeah.
Right. So, okay.
All right, Jaws teeth. Let's take a look at those because, hey, it's got to be a gadget. But there's a backstory to Jaws' steel teeth, which you really don't get in the movie. And the backstory is he was injured by the secret police in Poland, and he was beaten with hollow steel poles covered in rubber until he was left for dead, and his jaw broken beyond repair.
Wait.
Yeah.
Where'd you come up with that one?
Well, this is according to the novelization of the movie, The Spy Who Loved Me. You remember, Fleming's novel, The Spy Who Loved Me, has nothing to do with this movie, and Fleming did not want that novel turned into a movie the way he wrote it, because he did not, it wasn't that popular the way he wrote it. It was written in third person or something.
Yeah, it was third person, yeah.
Yeah, weird. It was kind of
She was telling her story.
Yeah. So, but anyway, the novelization of The Spy Who Loved Me by Christopher Wood, he brings all of this out in there. So you might take a look at that. In the same source, his name was, I'll try to get this right, this is Jaws' real name, Zbigniew Krzyzewski. Yeah.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah. Of course, none of this comes out in the movie, but this is all in the Christopher Wood's novelization, The Spy Who Loved Me. So check that out. But it's definitely a gadget, and he chews through chains, car cables, and more. Of course, in real life, that was licorice, I think they said, that he was chewing through. But
well, that would be easier to chew through.
Yeah. The steel might be tough enough, but you still need powerful jaws to do anything with steel teeth, though. So it's
powerful jaws. Another pun. Powerful jaws. Really, Dan? What is going on?
I didn't even realize that one. That was good.
Yeah, that was. You didn't have that one in your mind. Okay.
But so I don't think it was too believable. Yeah, yes. It's kind of like Tee-Hee in Live and Let Die, when he has that mechanical arm and he takes Bond's gun and he holds it in one hand and then bends it with the mechanical arm and bends Bond's gun. Well, the other hand's got to be a vice to hold that thing steady. It's for you to bend it with a powerful device. So that's unbelievable too. Anyway, so here you got.
But it looked good.
Yeah, it looked good. And hey, Jaws was fun in this movie. I liked him in this.
Well,
movie.
Yeah, it was so much they brought him back.
Yeah.
Right?
All right.
Now, one thing I like about the Bond movies aren't just the major gadgets we see. Sometimes it's the side gadgets that are exciting. Yeah. And some of them are exciting and some of them are just kind of like, oh, that was pretty cool. Right. And the microfilm reader's another one of these side gadgets.
Yeah.
I mean, because they got that microfilm from Excalibur in Cairo. Mm-hmm. And he's the one who's got the submarine tracking plans.
Right.
Bond gets to examine the film, though, with his portable device while Anya's sleeping on the boat on their way to meet Feluca. A few moments later, though, Anya knocks Bond out with another side gadget, which is the cigarette, which instead of puffing out or shooting out a projectile like we saw in You Only Live Twice, this is a knockout powder that comes out of the end of the cigarette.
That's cool.
And it's a pretty good device, and she plays it off pretty well.
Yeah, believable. She just had to make sure she's blowing out and not breathing in when she did that. But other than that, it worked pretty well, actually. And that's
blow out, don't suck in on this cigarette.
I think that's believable. There used to be these little things when I was a kid called Loads, Loads, and they came in a little round can. You used to buy them in the gag stores or in the trick stores. And you stuck one in the end of a cigarette. When someone lit the cigarette, it would explode. I mean, they actually sold this stuff.
I actually used those.
We used it on my aunt.
Yeah, my dad was in his office typing. He was typing on something, and all of a sudden I hear this thing go off. And I hear this, Tommy!
Yeah, they were not happy. My aunt was not happy either. It scared the hell out of you, really.
We of course laughed uproariously at these things.
It was like a little piece of rice almost. It looked like.
But the person who gets hit by him is not happy.
No, the whole thing. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
All right, let's get back to these gadgets. So, of course, we were talking about the microfilm. Microfilm has been experimented with for a long time, starting with this guy, John Benjamin Dancer, who, and I'm sure you knew this, he's known as the father of microphotography.
Oh, I did not know that.
So there you go. And so, microfilm's been around for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And insofar as incapacitating agents, blowing the puff of powder out, I mean, that's, incapacitating people has been around for a real long time. I mean, since like 600 BC, when Solon's soldiers threw hellebore roots into these streams supplying water to the enemy troops.
That was clever.
And the best part about this is the troops then developed diarrhea.
Wow. Man, in 600 they knew this. BC.
Yeah, BC.
Whatever they call it now.
Yeah, BCE, I think it's now called. But yeah, it's, and that one's pretty clever because, instead of knocking you out, it's going to still incapacitate you pretty well.
All right, so 1977, no problem then. We're good.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. In Q's lab, we always see a bunch of devices and gadgets, many of which do not make it into use in the films. But we're not going to go through all of them because there's a lot of them. But maybe in a few. Oh
yeah, all the stuff you can see in the lab that we never see used.
Yeah.
Other than the lab, that's.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff in there. You have to wonder sometimes, when the hell would they use that? Or where? But it's still cool. All right. She just had to make sure she's blowing out and not breathing in when she did that. But other than that, it worked pretty well, actually. And that's
blow out, don't suck in on this cigarette.
I think that's believable. There used to be these little things when I was a kid called Loads, Loads, and they came in a little round can. You used to buy them in the gag stores or in the trick stores. And you stuck one in the end of a cigarette. When someone lit the cigarette, it would explode. I mean, they actually sold this stuff.
I actually used those.
We used it on my aunt.
Yeah, my dad was in his office typing. He was typing on something, and all of a sudden I hear this thing go off. And I hear this, Tommy!
Yeah, they were not happy. My aunt was not happy either. It scared the hell out of you, really.
We of course laughed uproariously at these things.
It was like a little piece of rice almost. It looked like.
But the person who gets hit by him is not happy.
No, the whole thing. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
All right, let's get back to these gadgets. So, of course, we were talking about the microfilm. Microfilm has been experimented with for a long time, starting with this guy, John Benjamin Dancer, who, and I'm sure you knew this, he's known as the father of microphotography.
Oh, I did not know that.
So there you go. And so, microfilm's been around for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And insofar as incapacitating agents, blowing the puff of powder out, I mean, that's, incapacitating people has been around for a real long time. I mean, since like 600 BC, when Solon's soldiers threw hellebore roots into these streams supplying water to the enemy troops.
That was clever.
And the best part about this is the troops then developed diarrhea.
Wow. Man, in 600 they knew this. BC.
Yeah, BC.
Whatever they call it now.
Yeah, BCE, I think it's now called. But yeah, it's, and that one's pretty clever because, instead of knocking you out, it's going to still incapacitate you pretty well.
All right, so 1977, no problem then. We're good.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. In Q's lab, we always see a bunch of devices and gadgets, many of which do not make it into use in the films. But we're not going to go through all of them because there's a lot of them. But maybe in a few.
Oh yeah, all the stuff you can see in the lab that we never see used.
Yeah.
Other than the lab, yeah, that's.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff in there. You have to wonder sometimes when the hell would they use that, or where? But it's still cool. All right. I mean, he's had many killed accidentally, who he's dealt with, but one way or another. But hey, is this possible? Yeah, maybe. I mean, you might be able to build a car like this. They have those army ducks that go from land to water, so yeah, not underwater, but they
don't look anything like a Lotus Espirit.
Cool like this. No. No. All right.
So Dan, you mentioned that we have visited all of the locations they filmed the Lotus.
Yeah, every one of them
in Sardinia.
Yeah,
and so the nice thing about going to these locations and something like this is you can see where these gadgets are used, when they're used, and in here where the car goes.
Yeah.
And so you can go to the town where the Lotus chase begins with that motorcycle.
Yes, we found the exact spot.
We found the exact spot for that.
Yeah.
To the wall where he spins around while being chased.
Yeah, we were there.
And where he drives the Lotus off the pier and into the water.
Yeah.
And then when it comes back out, that's a different beach. But they actually filmed the scene where they had the submersible car drive out of the beach.
Yeah,
and
they pulled it out. They pulled it out.
And the location was absolutely fabulous. Yeah, and we had some fun trying to find some of those places, didn't we, Dan?
Yeah. Actually, we thought the first night we got to Sardinia, we thought we found the road that led down to that pier that we were talking about, where it drives off. And we
were wrong.
We rented this car, and we're driving down this kind of like a hard sand dirt road. And it got bumpier and bumpier. And even going slowly, it was harrowing experience driving and for the car. So we finally pulled over and thought, I think this might be the wrong road. And Tom says, there's like a puddle under the car. It's like, what?
It got there pretty quickly, too.
So we look under the car. You're looking at the lights on the car. And we determine, after a moment or so, it was the brake fluid.
It was even better because one thing you'll learn about Sardinia, it's very hilly.
Yeah.
You want your brakes.
And now we have no brakes. So we limped back to the hotel with our hand on the handbrake and driving very, very slowly because it was only about a mile away, but we still had a little more of this crazy road. And we made it, and they came and picked up the car and gave us another car. Now, remember when they came to pick us the car? The guy comes with his son.
The guy had his son with him.
They dropped them off, and we said, there's no brakes in this car. He said, no, it'll be fine. He's talking in Italian. It's like, okay, all right.
So he takes off in the car we just had him pick up with his kid, which was just
that
crazy.
Was bizarre.
So Dan, there was a line in that John Daly, a golfer, has used, and I believe he was quoting Richard Pryor. I think we killed the car.
Yeah, we didn't tell him about the road we were down.
No.
Oh,
although we did see that car back at the airport being rented.
Right, yeah, being rented again, like 2 days later or something. It was like
so. Hopefully, it just fixed whatever. Hopefully, it was just we knocked off a tube or something.
All right.
So one of the other cool things in the scenes in Sardinia is another gadget, and it's where the motorcycle has a sidecar.
Oh, chasing the Lotus. Yeah.
Yeah, well, chasing the Lotus.
Yeah.
And he launches the sidecar as a missile to try to blow up the Lotus.
Yeah.
Except, of course, Bond gets out of the path of the thing, and this guy ends up driving the sidecar right into a mattress, or shooting this sidecar right into a mattress truck.
Yeah, well, of course.
Yeah, it was kind of, okay, nothing got hurt because it was all mattresses.
Yeah, feathers going all over the place, of course.
That said, it was a pretty cool spy gadget. Taking the concept of a sidecar and then turning it into a weapon was pretty cool.
Yeah, it seemed to me rather inefficient though, because you got literally one shot, right? You're going to launch the whole sidecar into your target, or at least shoot it towards your target. Maybe a sidecar should hold like several missiles that you can fire, maybe one at a time or all together, but still, it was still cool to see. And of course, it set
the man with the golden gun only needed one bullet. You only need one sidecar.
You only need one sidecar. Not
You're
this
good.
guy. And of course, it gave us the great line, all those feathers that he still can't fly. All right.
That's a great line. Okay.
All right. The wet bike. The wet bike is another gadget. This is kind of a precursor to personal watercraft like jet skis and skidoos and stuff. And it's indeed innovative for the time. So we're including it as a major gadget. The wet bike in the movie actually worked. And Roger Moore was actually riding it. And in his Bond on Bond...
Wait, Roger was doing his own stunt?
Yeah. In his Bond on Bond book, he claims he fell into the water a number of times, requiring more makeup, clothing change, etc., before they finally got the shot right. So that's what he said in his book, Bond on Bond. So the wet bike actually was produced from about 1980 through 1992, when other personal watercraft companies kind of took the lead, like jet ski and
wait,
right?
though. Let me correct your timeline here, though, because the Kawasaki jet ski, which is where the name jet ski comes from, they released that in like 1972 or in 1973. So
wow.
this was before the wet bike.
Yeah.
So that's
maybe
the
they
timing
weren't too
seems
popular.
The timing seems to work, but maybe it's the style, because some of these watercrafts like this, you would have to ride standing up, and others you would ride sitting down.
Yeah.
So I don't. It could just be the order that those things came out of.
Okay.
Because the original jet skis, I believe you had to stand up on. So it might be a slight distinction there between those. So I'm not sure.
All right. The escape pod was the final major gadget here. Stromberg had it at the ready in case he needed to escape Atlantis. But Bond and XXX managed to get into it and escape instead.
Was that what they did? They were escaping?
Yeah. We have a similar device, of course, in Diamonds Are Forever as an escape device from the oil rig. Sure, why not? We could believe you have an escape device. I mean, good planning. What the hell? Sure, have one, just in case. Bond movies are escapist films anyway, right? Hey, come on. Hello. Escape. Boom.
All right. Well, you know what? Let's escape from talking about these two movies. All right. We've gone through the gadgets that are in those two movies now.
Yeah. Okay, here's a spy movie tip of the week. If you ever get a chance to watch the movie Spies Like Us with Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd, which of course is supposed to be funny, spoofy, and interesting, well, don't.
Oh.
Yeah, it really is a 2-star movie, and that's only because it has one amusing part to it. So we would say, hey, skip it, move on.
Wait, don't say we.
Come on, you like that movie?
I'll talk about it in a second. I'll give you a chance to spout out on this, but then I'll give you my thoughts.
Oh my God, no. No, there are better movies to go watch, like The Secret Invasion and The Adventures of Tartu, both of which we have podcast episodes out on. Those are
Where would you rank this against number one of the Secret Service?
Yeah, check out number one of the Secret Service. We just launched that podcast episode recently. It's doing very well. Interesting movie. All right, listen to these podcast episodes and then watch these movies, Secret Invasion and The Adventures of Tartu, and our episodes will help enhance your viewing experience. But Spies Like Us, I would say, skip it.
Come on, Dan. I mean, I'll admit this wasn't a great movie.
Thank you.
But we did disagree on number one of the Secret Service. Yeah. I thought you should just skip it. And you're like, well, why not? I mean, if you are a Chevy Chase or Dan Aykroyd fan, why not watch this movie?
Yeah.
Plus, it has Bernie Casey, who played Felix Leiter from Never Say Never Again. Uh-huh. Derek Meddings helmed the special effects in Spies Like Us. And he was part of the Moonraker visual effects team nominated for an Academy Award for Moonraker.
Yeah.
He won a special Academy Award for part of the visual effects team for Superman.
Yeah,
in
go watch those
1979.
movies.
And he also did the special effects, miniatures, and or visual effects on Live and Let Die, GoldenEye, The Man with the Golden Gun,
He's good.
and For Your Eyes Only. So you know the effects are going to be good, and especially in a movie like Spies Like Us, there's even a laser that they have some fun with.
Oh my God, a
and
laser!
You know how I like lasers in a movie. That's why I did that episode on it, the video on it.
Yeah, we have one on the 12 uses of lasers in spy movies. Okay.
In spy movies. So I think this is one of those movies that you and I are going to just have to disagree on.
Yeah,
I agree. It might be 2 stars, but when you're saying skip it, a 2-star movie, if you're just sitting there, you're having a cocktail one night, why not? And especially if you're Chevy Chase.
Nothing else to do. Watch that.
If you're a Chevy Chase or Dan Aykroyd fan, why not?
Yeah, they weren't even all that funny in it, actually. Dan Aykroyd wrote it, too, which I was surprised. All right, that is a wrap.
Well, wait, I think we should do an episode on that movie, Dan.
I think so, too. Lots of gadgets we looked at today from a couple of Roger Moore Bond movies. This has been Dan.
And Tom.
From SpyMovieNavigator.com and our podcast show, Cracking the Code of Spy Movies. Please subscribe to our show in your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Yeah, we're all over social media, too. Thanks for listening. We appreciate it.